Well, hi again. I want to thank everybody who has joined me on this journey for the last 2.5 years plus. So I've kind of learned a lot. I hope you've learned a lot. And, in some ways, I feel like I've made quite a bit of progress in my recovery, and frankly, in other ways, not really so much. But, one of the things that I think is kind of ironic is about a year and a half ago or so, I think, I said to a friend, this series is probably my swan song. It's probably the last thing I'll ever work on that anybody will ever see. And lo and behold, a few months ago, I got into the whole thing with the dad jokes, which I never really thought would amount to anything. And here it's been what at least 5 or 6 appearances on TV, and I've got a whole series of the dad jokes of varying quality out there. So, it's funny how sometimes you just never know where things are going to lead. So, anyway, I haven't really done a serious video in a while about my own experiences and thoughts and that. And part of it is I have to admit I've been in kind of a rut. In the last few months, things that I've seen with other people and people I know have, oh, frankly, really not been too pleasant. I'm at an age now where a lot of the people that I know and am related to are going through personal tragedies of varying sorts with illnesses or, oh, just kind of degenerative situations and some people passing away and that. And quite frankly, it's weighed rather heavily on me. I guess when you have kids in that, and at my age, people have grandkids, have a future to look forward to. The future I have to look forward to is not particularly entertaining. I feel very mortal. And a lot of these issues about death and dying come up. And, frankly, they weigh me down after a while. You know, um, Back when I got married, I remember the priest, as part of his homily, asked, he said, would I be willing to die for my wife? He said, Scott, would you be willing to die for her? And at the time I thought, well, yeah, of course I would. Would I take a bullet to save my wife's life? Well, of course I would. Would I sacrifice my life for her? Yes, I would. I would do it in a second without hesitation. But there's another question too, and especially since becoming disabled, is how willing am I to live for her? Live with a lot of pain and constant discomfort and frustration and the end of my career and limitations on my physical ability. Am I willing to endure all that? Now going on almost 7 years of never having a good night's sleep, of never being without pain. Sometimes the dying for somebody is relatively easy because at least it gets over with in a hurry. But continuing to live for somebody, it can be a challenge. And I know that my wife loves me and I love her, and she wants me around. She tells me she'd be really lonely without me. So, I'm determined to stick it out, and come what may. And even though I see things happening to other people, I know I'm really lucky to be overall still improving even after almost 7 years. Some of the improvements are very small. I can't even tell you what they are. I think my mental sharpness is a little bit better. Lately, I've started rereading some Russian literature, which was a big passion of mine when I was in my 20s. And I haven't read some of those books in, gosh, 40 years, 45 years maybe. And rediscovering why I liked them in the first place. And a couple of years ago, I just didn't have the mental capacity to read them, and now I do, and so I'm really enjoying them, and that's a good thing. So, but facing this years-long challenge, and again with some of the disappointments and frustration and isolation is really hard. For people who are disabled and can't get out, and it's not that I can't get out, but I don't get out very much. It's really hard. It's a difficult challenge, and to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of tired of my own company. I spend a lot of time alone, and I just wish I could get away from myself sometimes. You're watching this video, hey, you can turn this off or skip to the next one or go watch something else. But I can't change the program on my personal remote. So I'm kind of stuck with myself, and there are times when I wish I could change the channel just for a little while. If you have any ideas, let me know. So, Oh, well, anyway. So I struggle on, and I have my better days and worse days, and better weeks and worse weeks. And I think things are looking up for him now a little bit, and I'll keep you posted on that. So how do you deal with some of these challenges? I mean, what are the things that are affecting your life, and how do you continue to be optimistic when you see things that don't look very, very pleasant around you? I'd like to know because I could use the help. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and who knows? Maybe by the time I get this posted, I'll have been on TV again with another dad joke. So I did submit a couple that I thought were pretty good, so maybe they'll run them. But if you want to see them, I got a playlist of all my dad jokes elsewhere on my YouTube channel, so have a look. Well, anyway, thanks again for watching. I'd love to hear from you. Please comment, please give a like, please share, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.